Alexandra Castañeda, the Federal Environmental Justice Program Manager at Rio Grande International Study Center.
Alexandria, we're here at Texas A&M International University in Laredo. It's been a full day of presentations, a lot of activity. So tell us what the event was all about.
So this event today was to bring together all of the key community leaders across 6 counties. So that included Zapata, Webb, LaSalle, Jim Hogg, Duval, and might be missing one, Starr County. So those 6 counties, and so we were able to get a good representation from all 6 counties. And what we did was we provided information. So we provided information on the Inflation Reduction Act, on the Investments in Infrastructure and Jobs Act, and Justice 40. So what is Justice 40? Justice 40 is a commitment that the Biden administration made to disadvantaged communities, that 40% of the funding from these bills would be funneled to these communities directly positively impact them, right? So projects along the lines of, so these are some of the funding categories, not all, these are some, but housing, so affordable and reliable housing, climate change, climate resiliency, transportation as it relates to equitable transportation, infrastructure in roadways and sidewalks and things of that nature, and of course clean energy. So that's a huge funding opportunity or funding category through these funds, as well as workforce development to boost our economic development, but workforce development around green infrastructure, right? So we really want to emphasize that, and that's a huge point of emphasis from these funding opportunities and these funding bills.
Who were the keynote speakers today?
So our keynote speaker was Susana Almanza, who is from the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council. And she is an absolute legend in the environmental justice space. She's also the president or executive director of Poder, that is a nonprofit in Austin, for those of you that want to look that up. Amazing organization. And so she was our keynote speaker. We did have several other speakers in our breakout sessions from organizations like the Texas Advanced Energy Business Alliance, from the Texas Energy Poverty Research Institute. We had the Clean Energy Fund of Texas here as well. So many, we had Chispa, Texas, and Chispa National talking about the Clean School Bus program from the EPA. So just amazing speakers, amazing topics. Yeah, very proud and very happy with what the information that we brought forth.
You mentioned at the beginning of this interview how President Biden, when he took office, signed this executive order to save 40% of the funding in certain categories go to disadvantaged areas. Has there been any studies to show that that is actually the case? Has he been true to his word in funneling funds to areas like the border?
Right, so when it comes to that, unfortunately, there isn't quite yet a tracking tool. I know that there are several entities that are really advocating for this, right? Because how do we hold these agencies accountable? How do we ensure that they are, in fact, ensuring that their application processes are equitable for these communities, right? And ensure that these monies are being utilized in these communities. And so when it comes to that, it's really up to us as community members, community-based organizations, and individuals to really go out and demand sometimes, I dare to say, that these agencies are transparent in their methodologies for these grant opportunities, show kind of the work behind it that indicates that yes, this is going to disadvantaged communities, yes, it is an equitable opportunity. So that's really up to those agencies and up to us to hold them accountable, right? A lot of these agencies are holding comment sessions on these programs that are opening, and so there's a lot of opportunity for public comment, questions and input from these communities and from our community leaders as well as community members.
I'm just going to hazard a guess here, but I would imagine a lot of communities along the border would not know that these opportunities are there, that there's possibilities of funding for very big projects because we fit the criteria. Is that the sort of feedback you've got, that we never knew it was available?
I've gotten either we've never known that it was available, we don't know what it is, we're just hearing about it, or we're figuring out what it is, right? And what it means to our grant applications. So even bigger cities, let's say, and it's not a big city, but let's say the city of Laredo even, where we're still trying to understand Justice 40 and how it plays into our grant narratives, what it means exactly. And so a lot of what was happening was these grant writers and these departments that are dedicated to these types of things were trying to figure out Justice 40 on their own, right? Because something like this wasn't happening. This influx of information and this bringing of experts on the matter to kind of discuss that and go into details and really help inform those people that are key and instrumental in these grant applications to better understand Justice 40 and just what it means.
I would imagine for these counties around Webb County, around Laredo, this must have been something of an eye-opener because of just how much, how comprehensive the program was today in all different areas. What sort of feedback have you received?
So I was getting feedback from honest people I wasn't necessarily expecting feedback from. So nonprofits that were not directly related to even some of the topics that we discussed today, but they were like, no, it absolutely was. It was so incredible to learn more about Justice 40 and the partnerships that we can forge with key stakeholders who may have a higher capacity to go after these federal fundings, right? Because that's another thing, and that's a lot of what we've heard and what I've heard throughout my not a very long career, but my career in grants and federal funding and state funding, is that there's not always the capacity. So the capacity is very, very important. And when it comes to this, and when it comes to federal funding specifically, these grants are hefty, right? So a lot of the feedback that we received today was an eye-opener in terms of how important these partnerships are, how important these partnerships will continue to be as we look at these opportunities, even for the bigger entities. And so that was incredible for me.
And I know before we sat down for this interview, you had been telling me how in North Texas a bunch of counties got together and they're going after the biggest grant funding dollar amount available, $400 million for a solar energy project. So that's the sort of thing South Texas could be looking at as well.
Yes, so in relation to that, that is something that we as an organization and with the community leaders here, we've been discussing. I don't know that it's something that we're going to come in on. I don't want to speak for these entities, but there is an opportunity there, right? In terms of, do we want to, again, these partnerships, these coalitions, we have the same goal. Let us disperse kind of the heavy lifting and have our communities and our state and specifically our region benefit from these monies and these opportunities.
So of all the presentations today, did any of them sort of jump out the page at you? Were you surprised by anything? Anything really out of the ordinary for you, an expert in this?
So it was just very, very interesting to hear again about no. Sorry.
That's okay, I can edit this.
Okay. No, I don't think there was. I can't think of something to say there.
No, there wasn't anything that surprised you. You were expecting.
Right. No, there was really nothing too surprising. We had Probably because we had prepped beforehand, so I knew what was coming, right? But I think what is surprising of all this is that coming from an entity that would typically go after state grants and these very narrow kind of scopes, right, in these projects, and when we're looking at federal funding, especially through the IRA and IIJA and Justice 40, where they're environmental in nature, there are these really big funding pots, right? And the partnerships that it entails and all of that, that really equates to a big project with many different layers. So that would be, for example, an urban tree canopy application that our organization applied for not too long ago for $50 million that involved workforce development. It involved, of course, the planting of the trees, but that involved partnerships with the college, that involved partnerships with our homeless shelter here in Laredo, so that we could provide job opportunities for the homeless population, and then also provide training opportunities through the college so that these individuals could become arborists and contribute to that project, right? So that was just so many different layers in one project, one proposal, and that's really what's been surprising to me coming into this work. Where I was so used to these very narrow project proposals, or you can only do this, and now there's just so many layers to it.
Yeah. So, is there anything else I've missed? Anything I've missed, Alexandria? Anything else you want to add to tell the viewers about Justice 40 or the work of your group?
So I think it's very important, again, that we advocate for ourselves as a region, that we go after these opportunities, right? That we put our foot out there and that we say, hey, you know what, we tried. We did it. We put in that application. You know, it's very competitive on a federal level, but Justice 40 is really giving us a hand up here, right? So that's definitely kind of the takeaway that I want to give to everybody. Yes, it's hard work, but we really need to do it for our community. It's super important. And so, yeah, as far as Risk as an organization, I mean, we do great work here. We're growing exponentially, and just take a look at us, learn about us, and any questions, anything at all, my information will be available. And I'm happy to help, answer any questions, make those connections, build our network. That's what I'm here for. So.
Well, let's just end with you telling people how they can reach you, your group.
So I can be reached at alexandra@rgisc.org, and I don't have a phone number. Well, we do, but it goes to everybody.
Sure.
And I don't want to give my cell phone. So.
No, just the email is good.
Yeah, and online you can find us at rgisc.com, and that's Rio Grande International Studies Center.
Alexandra, thank you so much for today's interview. We've learned a lot, and thank you so much for your hospitality today.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. It's been amazing, and it was amazing having you here. Thank you.
Thank you.